Hello, and welcome to Starting Points, where one thing leads to another. This is a video that I'm making as a follow-up to a video on Newton, in which my only source was this book by E.T. Bell called Men of Mathematics, which had a long essay about Newton. But I had another book about Newton at home. I hadn't read it either until I got interested in the astronomers and the mathematicians that worked with figuring out some of the realities of our world. This book is by Peter Ackroyd. It's called Newton. The designer of the cover had a clever idea to show the O, gravity, and the O was falling. It's called Ackroyd's Brief Lives. That title doesn't refer to the fact that it's books that he writes about people who live a short life, because Newton lived to be 85. What it refers to is that the book is short. It's one of the pluses of it, actually, and I'll say more about that later. But there's some things in here that I'd like to share with you. And I've marked the places, and I'll try to move along as quickly as I can for you. Yet he was not necessarily precocious in the standard curriculum of the school. Now, how many people might have children that would fall into that category? In his first year, he was marked 78th out of a total of 80 pupils. And a later biographer has remarked that he continued very diligent in his lessons. Like many children of negligent in his lessons. Like many children of incipient genius, however, he may have considered those lessons to be unnecessary. Those who are busy in one realm of the mind and imagination may ignore all others as unimportant. Yet he did stand out from his childhood contemporaries in another sense. He was endlessly inventive, and we looked at that a bit in the E.T. Bell book. A historian at Grantham, recounting the history of the school's most famous inhabitant, recorded young Newton's strange inventions. Instead of playing with the other boys, he preferred to construct knickknacks and models of wood of all kinds, and he had little saws and hatchets, hammers, and a whole shop of tools. So he spent time outside his lessons, knocking and hammering in his lodging room. Now, that's it. He was now in a school where he had to lodge. And he was lodging with the town apothecary. In his house, there were some young girls living there as well. And he fancied it seemingly one of those young girls. She remembers him and wrote about some of the things that he did. These devised his own almanac and made reports on the equinoxes and the Mr. Clark, the apothecary, she said that he would rather choose to be at home, even among the girls, and would frequently make little tables, cupboards, and other utensils for her and her playfellows. She remembers in particular Newton's construction of a cart he made with 4 wheels, and by turning the windlass about, he could make it carry him around the house where he pleased. He was also noted for making kites. And he made candlelight paper lanterns, which he tied to the tails of the kites and impressed and frightened the local people as comets. He'd learned the power of enchantment as well as entertainment. One undergraduate of the period noted, "I have none to direct me what books to read and what to seek in order which method to proceed." So Newton rescued himself from that dilemma with his own autodidactic genius. The beneficial aspect of this decay of learning lay in the fact that a clever or eager student could move forward in whatever direction he chose. Now, he's going to Cambridge at that point, and the school is tied in with religion, and the fellows were invariably obliged to take holy orders, a stipulation that did not change until 1871. The university curriculum itself was still emired in the Middle Ages too, with a preponderance of lessons devoted to the works of Aristotle. Newton was obliged to study Aristotelian logic, Aristotelian ethics, and an antiquated rhetoric that curtailed rather than encouraged inventive expression. In Aristotle's philosophy, too, was the earth remained at the center of the cosmos. Well, that's interesting. There was an unfortunate interruption in this university existence, however. In June 1665, he was obliged to leave Cambridge because of the onset of the Great Plague. In this month, the pestilence, or the death, as it was commonly known, had reached London from the western suburbs. So, Newton returned to the family home in Woolsthorpe, from which safe distance he continued with his studies. He'd brought his books with him and even put up new shelves to accommodate them. There was a pattern of progress in his studies. He devoted all his attention to a problem until he had satisfactorily resolved it, and then he would abandon his work for a while. After a few months, he would return to it and make another leap forward. He learned how to husband his mind, as it were, to allow it to lie fallow before it became fruitful once again. Newton, this is Humphrey Newton, declares that his aim might be I was not able to penetrate into, which suggests a measure of prudent reticence on his part. He also notes that he only known Newton laugh once in 5 years, on an occasion when he was asked what was the use of studying Euclid. The exact meaning of this laugh is not at all clear. In this period, when he was touching 40, his hair was already gray. He blamed this condition on the prolonged contact with quicksilver, mercury, in his experiments, although others might ascribe it to fatigue and labor. He worked long and hard on his work. Now, I thought that about the quicksilver was a good thing to be, for them to have discovered. What is gravity? From where does it come? In simple terms, what is it made of? No one in any closer to answering that question. Newton confessed in a later letter, the cause of gravity is what I do not claim to know. And what other last little something I think maybe here. This person in later life wrote a private note describing Newton as hasty, artificial, unkind, arrogant. The two men were to engage in even more bitter controversy 10 years later. It was the pattern of Newton's life. Now, when I think about it being the pattern of his life, I'm thinking, surely, as we learned about his early childhood, that he was his father died before he was born. And so he's born without a father. His mother has to find ways to support him. And a person lets a fairly well-to-do man in a neighboring village know that she's a very competent woman, and he courts her, she marries him, she moves to his place, and here's Newton. Who's going to take care of him? Her mother, his grandmother. So later on, when she's back in his life for a couple of years, when he's about 10 and 11, but so much gap in time had passed that they weren't connected. And I think, I'm on thin ice here, but I think this lack of bonding, this lack of bonding, it still happens in our modern world. Mothers have to go back to work. They have, in many cases, very short times off after the child is born, and they're lactating and nursing, and both parents are hard pressed to make ends meet, and so maybe children sometimes grow up not being connected, something gets lost there. But enough. when you were a tadpole and I was a fish, and other speculations about this and that by Martin Gardner, I mentioned it to you before and shared something from it. And his second essay that he's got in here is Isaac Newton's Vast Ocean of Truth, it's called. And he writes this: Peter Ackroyd is an acclaimed and prolific British novelist, poet, dramatist, and biographer. He has written biographies of William Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, William Blake, Thomas More, Oscar Wilde, Edgar Allan Poe, Ezra Pound, and T.S. Eliot. His History of London was a bestseller. His new biography of Isaac Newton follows the lives of Geoffrey Chaucer. He did one on Chaucer and one on J.M.W. Turner, the famous painter. There has been a raft of recent biographies of Newton, notably Richard Westfall's Never at Rest. Why another one? The answer is that a brief life of Newton meets a widespread need. Longer biographies may tell you more about a person than you care to know. Although there are no new or startling revelations in Ackroyd's book, its facts are accurate, his judgments sound, and his writing a great pleasure to read. Well, I already knew that his writing was a great pleasure to read, but and feel reassured to know that his facts are accurate and his judgments sound. So that was good to hear. I couldn't help but want to share this cover that I thought of when I saw this cover with the gravity. Here's Shel Silverstein, Poems and Drawings, Falling Up, one of the poems in the book. It's quite clever. And there's one in here about spiders. I was very tempted to read it to you, even though I intend to have a video or 2 or 3 on spiders, in that we often know much more about history and people as much as we can know for certain, because who knows for sure what all transpired long times ago, and less about creatures who share the planet with us. We might be able to identify the bird, but we maybe don't know anything about its habits and even what it prefers to eat, maybe. And certainly worms, or, as I say, various insects or spiders, you know. And it really is quite a lot that I want to spend more time on in this series of videos. Well, thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.